guys, Absolute Duelist here along with Charmander in the background as always, coming at you with the last Yu-Gi-Oh video of the year. Now guys, this year has been a really good year for Yu-Gi-Oh in general because we've gotten a lot of really cool stuff throughout the entire year, and a lot of different decks have been playable throughout the entire year. Even though the end of the year we are in a tier 0 format, it's been a great year for Yu-Gi-Oh in terms of new support, new products, new decks, and I just wanted to talk about at the end of the year what were the best decks of 2022, because we've had a lot of different decks in this year come out, be released, get support, be good in general. Like for instance p.u.n.k, like we got Adventure and I managed to come third at Nationals with p.u.n.k, and like so many decks in general have been just amazing this year that I thought, hey, end of the year, last video of the year, let's go ahead and talk about the best decks throughout 2022. So guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video and get into what decks were the best this year. So what is the 5th best deck of the year? What deck made me think, oh damn, this is one of the best decks of the year? And the 5th best deck of the year, in my opinion, was p.u.n.k. Honestly, when this deck came out, no one was playing it. Yes, Foxy-Toon had a lot of money involved in it, and there was a lot of money to go with the p.u.n.k engine, but this deck wasn't great. It wasn't good, it wasn't amazing, and no one really played it. But as the year went on and stuff like Dear Note was released, we got Chaos Ruler involved, we got so many things like Italy 3 I think happened as well at some point during the beginning of this year. p.u.n.k became one of the best decks in the game, being utilized alongside the Adventure package, being utilized with Triple E-Telly, going into just insane combos, being able to use like Sangan as well to get free searches, and then just going to an entire combo. p.u.n.k was literally one of the best decks going into Nationals. It was an absolutely insane strategy that utilized stuff like Chaos Ruler to get free searches. It ended up getting a new p.u.n.k synchro that allowed you to search stuff like Ghost Ogre. p.u.n.k was one of the best decks of the year and did so much throughout the year that until we saw Chaos Ruler banned, this deck was going strong and just couldn't be beat. So honestly, this deck was one of the best decks of the year. Yes, when it was first released, it didn't really do anything and no one was really playing with it, but as the year went on and people started realizing the cool techs and unique combinations you could make, p.u.n.k really did become one of the best decks of the year and was absolutely insane when people figured it out. So p.u.n.k is number 5. It was an insane deck, crazy psychic deck, and yes, Tillerman with Italy 3 was just really insane. It was a stupidly strong deck, and there's still a lot that you can do with it now. Just without Chaos Ruler, it's just not as good. But hey, one of the best decks of the year. Let's go on to the next one. At number 4, I have Branded. Now, everybody knows that this year Albaz Structure Deck was released, and in that Structure Deck we got absolutely insane support for the Albaz lore, specifically Branded Fusion and Mirror Jade Dragon. These two cards coming out in the Albaz Structure Deck along with Lubellion and a choice other cards made Branded one of the best decks in the game. Everybody was fusion summoning, everybody was using Albaz, and Branded Fusion became the most busted card in the game, meaning that you needed to have Ash Blossom or you're probably going to lose. And because of that, Branded literally just had so much power and so much area to play that it was just literally the strongest deck. It came to the point where people were even playing cards just to stop level 5 or higher monsters like me and p.u.n.k playing Ophion so we could stop them from fusion summoning their really big things. Like honestly, Branded was just an absolutely insane deck. You needed the Ash to stop the Branded Fusion, and even then they still went off because they played tons of consistency cards like Allure of Darkness. They used the Sprite package to be able to just get literally a polymerization and energy change. They played Guardian Chimera, an absolutely insane card that could be summoned during your opponent's turn with Branded and red. Like honestly, Branded was one of the best decks of the year. Branded Fusion coming out in the structure deck really did make this archetype just absolutely insane, and having non-targeting banishing with Mirror Jade / consistent searching with stuff like Albion in the graveyard to get like more Branded Fusions or Branded in Reds, this deck was truly one of the best decks of the year and is still being played today, even in its bestial version. So yeah, like this deck is really just one of the strongest decks to come out this year. It's still going strong. Yes, Tillerman's is better, but you know what? People play this mixed with Tillerman's. So yeah, Branded was truly one of the best decks released this year. One of the structure decks that have come out this year that were actually good, still competitive, and you could pick up free, have a somewhat viable deck. You just need to pick up a few other cards, of course. So Branded was just an absolutely insane deck this year, and it's definitely worth one of the top 5 spots. So Branded is number 4. Let's go on to number 3. At number 3, we have a deck that didn't technically come out this year, but got support this year that made it one of the best decks of the entire year. And this deck is actually YuGiOh. Now, this deck was actually released in around 2020 when it came out in Secret Slayers and didn't really do anything. But this year, the deck got 2 very important support cards, such as the Princess Plant one that gave you a monster negate, and a field spell that gave you the ability to search spell and trap cards and tribute your opponent's monsters as cost. Now, because of this deck became one of the best decks of the year, utilizing cards like Rivalry of the Warlords and other really strong plant cards, such as I believe the Sun Avalon package. And this deck was one of the best decks of the year, just for the fact that this deck was able to go 18-0 at Euros. This deck literally did not drop a match. I think it had like 1 draw throughout the entirety of Euros, and honestly it was piloted by someone I know. It was piloted by Marcus Patel, and he did absolutely insane, and I know it was worked on by the Disciples and I believe some of the members of Tier 0, and those people really did just create one of the best decks of the year. They chose the correct format to play it in, with Rivalry to be able to beat the Tillerman's matchup where they're playing tons of different types, and honestly YuGiOh just out of nowhere became one of the best decks of the year, being super consistent, utilizing all the different plant monsters to just go ahead and bounce people's boards, create boards that your opponent couldn't break, and just have tons of interruptions. YuGiOh was literally so powerful that it just came out of nowhere and left field, and people after that started playing decks to actually counter it so they don't just lose to it. So honestly, this deck was really one of the most powerful decks of the year, came out of left field, out of nowhere, and it definitely deserves a spot this year, just for the fact that literally you go 18-0 at Euros, no one beat you. I can't say this isn't one of the best decks of the year, and it still continued to be decent until we entered the Tier 0 format. So yeah, just one of the best decks of the year, definitely deserving of the number 3 spot. So YuGiOh, you really do deserve the 3rd spot. Let's go on to number 2. Okay guys, so number 2, I think everybody can kind of agree this is definitely the 2nd best deck of the year, just because what it is, what it's done, and how it's performed so far since its release this year. Now, this deck is Sprite. Now, I think it's very easy to say that this deck is the 2nd best deck of the year, just because what it's done this year. This was one of the 2 decks released in Power of the Elements that really did just come out and showed a dominance in the format. Being a deck that could easily just lock your opponent from Nibiruing you, play tons of hand traps, be able to make boards with revives, totally awesome, and all of this other really easy stuff, and still have follow-up after all of that. Like, the deck was just really, really strong and really powerful, and as the year went on, yes, it did lose Ronin Totem, making it harder to make totally awesome, but the deck still had a lot of plays and even got more support throughout the year, such as Double Cross giving you the ability to steal your opponent's cards, and also revive cards. So the card was just really, really strong, and Sprite just got so much this year. And hell, even with its release, it was even one of the few decks out there that could deal with Mystic Mine, having Sprite Smashers there, just saying, yeah, we're going to search this right away just so we can deal with the Mystic Mine. That was a really big problem this year, with Mystic Mine just coming out of the gate even further and people just utilizing it more and more to stop people from playing the game. So Sprite was just an absolutely insane deck this year, has a lot of cool cards, got Sprint allowing it to use the Nimble engine just to absolutely insane proportions, being able to send Nimble Angler to summon Nimble Beavers from the deck. And honestly, the deck this year as soon as it was released was great, and as the year went on, the deck only got better. So Sprite, definitely one of the most insane decks released this year, one of the strongest, and only overshadowed by one single deck. So let's go ahead and get on to the last one. Number 1, the best deck of the year. It's hard not to say it's the best because of the pure reason that it literally put us in a tier 0 format, and the best deck of the year is Tillerman Ishizu. Specifically Tillermans because they're the deck that actually do a lot of the work, whereas the Ishizu stuff just lets you mill more cards. So Tillerman is definitely the best deck released this year, just being a deck that gave you access into so many different builds, such as the Danger variant with Fairy Tail Snow, just allowing you to mill tons of cards, utilize Snow to banish tons of them, attack with a 11k 0 Boros at times before we got the Ishizu stuff, and also then when we got the Ishizu stuff, just became an absolutely insane deck, tier 0 proportions, and literally kind of broke the game at the end of the year. Hell, it even made Konami make a ban list just to try and deal with them, and that ban list didn't really do anything. So honestly, Tillerman was just an absolutely insane deck this year, super consistent, just has utilization with milling, with searching, with graveyard fusion effects. This deck by far was literally the best deck of the year. It could play around cards like Darkwater No More and Forbidden Droplets really well, causing these cards to kind of shift out the format, maybe into some people's sides, and it really just was such a game-shifting deck that currently the deck is the best. Like, there's nothing that can beat this deck properly, there's nothing that can give it a showdown for itself, and it truly is right now the best deck in the game, and a lot of people can't deny that. Like, Tillerman is the best deck of this year. It really is just the most dominant and the most powerful, especially because of the Ishizu cards, and even before that it was still able to compete with Sprite, that was technically supposed to be the best deck like in the OCG, but we never have Max C, so we never had the power that the one in the OCG had. So Tillerman just showed its power, showed everything, and being mixed with Dangers and Fairy Tail Snow at the start, making it really, really strong, and then going on to the next format where Ishizu came out and then just became tier 0 format. Ishizu tier was the best deck of the year. Tillermans in general are the best deck of the year, so can you really deny the fact that this deck is just super strong, with Kakelo searching trap cards and then milling 5, and then Meryl milling more, and then you've got the spell card that mills 3 more as well, and then you've got stuff like insane hand traps such as Havness that just says when your opponent activates a face-up monster effect, special summon mill 3, and then all of them say when they're sent to graveyard by card effect, you get to fusion summon. This deck was by far the most powerful deck of the year, best deck of the year, and I don't think anyone can deny that. But guys, that is literally the top 5 list. These are the 5 decks of the year that were the best, they are the most powerful, they're the strongest, they're the decks that came out of nowhere and really did show their power and strength, and personally, I like a lot of them. I like the first half of the year more than the second half of the year because that's when stuff started to get out of hand, but honestly, this year was a really fun year for Yu-Gi-Oh! Being a year where I could play Phantom Knights and literally come third at Nationals, being able to slap Branded, p.u.n.k, and all of these other strategies, and then going into the second half of the year where I got Sprite, a very similar deck to PK, but wasn't the exact same, and was a lot of fun to play. And then we got Tillerman with Ishizu stuff, and then it just kind of getting crazy there, and we also got the Bestials coming out there too. Like, this year, absolutely insane year for Yu-Gi-Oh! Did become a point where things were completely different, were completely insane, and we had a lot of cool decks and strategies this year. Hell, honestly, I would say this is one of the most diverse years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Even though it ended in a tier 0 format. But guys, honestly, thank you so much for watching all these videos this year, guys. It's been a fun year to make videos. I know I haven't made as many videos as I'd like to this year, personally just because of my health this year, but hey, nonetheless, I'm better now, I'm fine. We're gonna have a great year of 2023, and I hope you did enjoy this year of Yu-Gi-Oh, guys. But hey, let's go on to the next year of Yu-Gi-Oh with a good note, and hopefully, Konami hit the tiers. Later all.